Welcome in to Outkick the Show. I am your fearless leader, Clay Travis. The show is presented by Oddshark. You can see them right behind me. Go to Oddshark for all of your gambling and informational related needs. I hope you guys are having a fantastic Thursday. This is probably going to be our final show for a couple of weeks, unless I decide to go live from Europe, because I am headed to Europe with the Travis clan. We are going to London. We are going to Paris. We are going to the beaches of D-Day and it's beaches of Normandy where D-Day took place. Should be a pretty fantastic trip. No radio from me other than tomorrow morning. And then I am gone for 2 weeks. Haven't even decided if I'm going to be on social media. It's going to be a lot of fun. First real trip, a vacation I've taken in about 6 years. So we're going overseas and it should be pretty outstanding. Big stories to get to today. Number one, Trump is tweeting like an idiot. We're going to break down why he was gaining absolutely nothing in the way he responded to a Morning Joe co-host. I will tell you, is CNN in crisis, the modern media under siege? Building on that, is sports writing dead? And those are the stories for the day. Let's begin with number one on the list, which is the tweet that Donald Trump sent this morning. If you haven't seen it, I'm going to read it to you. I'm one of the few people, I'm up really early in the morning. You guys know I do a morning radio show nationwide at 6 a.m. Eastern. I'm up early. Twitter basically dies from about 11 o'clock in the morning Eastern to about 6 a.m. Eastern. There's about a 7-hour window there where there isn't very much actually going on. Okay, and as a result, there isn't any real activity except me doing my show and then everybody else out there sleeping. And then Donald Trump every now and then will tweet. So I follow Donald Trump on Twitter. This morning, if you haven't heard it, here's what happened. I heard poorly rated at Morning Joe speaks badly of me. Don't watch anymore. Then how come low IQ crazy Mika, that's the girl on the show. I've never watched Morning Joe in my life, so I have no opinion about the show because I'm on the same time as them. Along with Psycho Joe, came to Mar-a-Lago 3 nights in a row around New Year's Eve and insisted on joining me. She was bleeding badly from a facelift. I said no! Exclamation point. This is an unbelievable tweet, all right? I am all in favor of Donald Trump being authentic. I think there is value in having an unfiltered look into the president's realm. But I also think that Donald Trump should not feud down. Here I want to give you a couple of stats. Donald Trump, I wrote this down, has 33 million Twitter followers, okay? 33 million Twitter followers. On an average day, Morning Joe gets around 700,000 followers. Okay, 700,000 people watch Morning Joe on an average day. That means he's broadcasting Morning Joe's opinion of him to 33 million people to attack the opinions that maybe 700,000 people have. I am all for firing back. But if you look at me, I don't feud down. All right, if I'm feuding with somebody, it's ESPN. And if I'm going to feud with somebody at ESPN, they better have 1 million Twitter followers, or else there's no basis whatsoever in me feuding down. It just doesn't make sense. Donald Trump feuding with CNN or the New York Times or some show on Fox or whatever he wants to be mad at actually makes some sense because it's Trump versus a huge media company. Going after somebody who is that far beneath you is beneath the president, literally. It makes no sense. I could give Donald Trump advice. My advice would be use Twitter to fight fair fights. Going after a Morning Joe co-host for her facelift, whether it happened or not, is not fair fighting. It also is not something that's going to help you in any way. I'll read. I heard poorly rated Morning Joe speaks badly of me. Don't watch anymore. All he has to say is, then why, and by the way, going 2 tweets is unnecessary. I don't know why it takes like 6 minutes between his tweets. What the hell is he doing for so long that it takes him that long to tweet 2 things in a row? Why is him not being able to say, like I could easily tweet for him, right? Morning Joe says they hate me now. Interesting. They begged to hang out with me for 3 days in a row at Mar-a-Lago. total losers, right? Bang, you're out in one sentence. And you're attacking the show, you're getting to your point, and you get it all in one tweet, and you're gone. If you want to do that, you shouldn't be feuding with individual shows, in my opinion. But if you're Donald Trump and you want to use Twitter in that way, here is the tweet that he could have sent that would have had more efficiency, more effectiveness, and not actually alienated people. Again, poorly rated, Morning Joe speaking badly of me again. Interesting, considering both hosts begged to hang out with me for 3 straight days at Mar-a-Lago. Losers. And then you're out, okay? If you want to take a shot, that thing only benefits the show that you're attacking. There are now 33 million people who have never heard of Morning Joe that are more likely to actually go and check and see what they're saying. I would love it if Donald, by the way, to put that into perspective, that's about the audience that we have every morning on my radio show, okay? Morning Joe on MSNBC on television does about the audience that my national morning show does nationwide when you count all the people who are listening every 15 minutes and also all the people who are listening on a podcast and everything else. We got about 700,000, maybe more, people every day listening to Outkick the coverage on a morning national network. So this makes absolutely no sense for Donald Trump to go out and say this. People say, oh, this is anti-DBAP. No, it's not. DBAP is about not being a pussy. Caring what people say about you on a regular basis, like Donald Trump does, is the very definition of being a pussy. You know what my mentions are like on a daily basis? The number of people with tiny audiences who come after me that I just totally ignore. That's what Donald Trump should do. Dude, you're the president. You don't have any basis whatsoever to care about an individual show on MSNBC. You are the president. If you want to feud with the Prime Minister of Australia or Chancellor Merkel in Germany, or whoever is in charge of Great Britain, whatever. I still think it's dumb. China, North Korea, fine. But don't go after a random morning show host. By the way, if he wants to come after me, I'm totally in love with it. I would be ecstatic if Donald Trump tweeted that I was a loser. I wouldn't like him going after my wife or my kids. To me, that's also out of bounds. Now, it's a little bit different because she's a co-host. But that's just, I read it and I was like, this is impossible to defend. All right, you guys can respond now to my position. I believe Donald Trump's approval ratings would be 10 points higher if he just stuck to a normal usage of Twitter. Like if he came to me and he said, Clay Travis, I want to hire you to be my personal czar of Twitter. I've seen what you do in sports. I think you're incredibly talented at getting your message out. I think you know what works. I think obviously you've had a great deal of success on the internet. You have a great deal of success on the radio. Can you come work for me and be my personal Twitter czar? I just want you by my elbow all hours of every day. First of all, I'm not sure I'd take that job because I've got young kids. But if I did decide to take that job, I think I could increase Donald Trump's his approval ratings 10 points in the space of hardly any time at all. Almost in hardly any time at all, right? He would come sit beside me. He would say, what does it make sense to do? And I would tell him exactly what makes sense to do. And I would increase his overall personal approval rating by 10 points within 5 months, maybe less, couple of months. And he'd tell me, what are you thinking about saying? I'd say, let's not go that angle. How about we adjust it and say this? It's all he would need is somebody who's a little bit funny, somebody who understands politics, somebody who understands how to make an argument, and also somebody who knows how things are going to play on Twitter. That's the truth. So people out there who are saying, DBAP, Clay, using my own slogan against me, being concerned with what people say about you or think about you is the ultimate definition of being a pussy, okay? I don't give a fuck what people say about me. True. Like, I enjoy it. Everybody who's talking is more publicity, but I really don't care as long as there aren't complete lies being said against me. And if there's total lies being said against me, then that's why I've got the whole apparatus of the federal government to fight back against them. I think Donald Trump looks like a bitch. I think he looks like a crybaby here, and I don't think it's a solid look for him. That's been why I didn't vote for Donald Trump. People say you should love him. He's the ultimate don't be a pussy candidate. Not true. Donald Trump behaves most of the time like a pussy. Pussies care what people think about them. They're worried constantly about approval. They walk into rooms and they're not the alpha male. They're like, I wonder if people think I'm the alpha male. You know what alpha males think? They don't give a fuck. Number one rule of being an alpha male is not worrying about what people think about you when you walk into a room. It's walking into a room and not giving a fuck what people think about you. That's the number one way to be an alpha male. Beta male walks in and is like, oh, I wonder what that person thinks about me. I wonder what that person thinks about me. I wonder what that person said last night. I wonder what that person said this morning. Everybody's always talking when you're the president. Donald Trump is not being treated unfairly. He's being treated like every president of all time. Go look at the clippings of what people said about Abraham Lincoln back in the day. Donald Trump is always running around saying, oh, people are being so mean. People are saying such awful things. That's the truth. That's why I didn't vote for Hillary or Donald Trump, because I didn't like either one of them. Neither one of them to me was an alpha male. They were both inconsiderate kind of pussies, to be honest. So that's the truth. All right, additional questions. What questions do you guys have about my response to Donald Trump's tweets? Trump, yeah, I agree. Like when Trump was complaining because the cast at Hamilton was mean to Mike Pence, I was like, that was the ultimate be a pussy moment for Donald Trump. That's when I was like, this guy's not going to be able to handle being president. I don't know, does he read his mentions? It's inconceivable to me that he would read his mentions, but I don't otherwise understand how it takes him like 6 minutes to finish 2 tweets. It doesn't make any sense at all. Okay, any other questions that you guys have about Donald Trump here on Facebook or Periscope Live? Same with Shaun White, me and Shaun White, the skateboarder. You talk about Shaun King. I mean, I think it matters if somebody is making the world a worse place and making arguments that are fundamentally untrue and coming at me and saying they're going to sue me. I'm going to fire back. I think that Shaun King makes the world a worse place. I think that Black Lives Matter activists, and this is evidently insanely controversial because I'm the only person who will say it, I think that Black Lives Matter activists have led to more deaths of black people than any racist in the last 100 years. Frankly. More, this is crazy, but more black people die in Chicago every year than were lynched in the entire history of this nation. Think about that stat for a minute. More black people die every year of murder in Chicago than were lynched every year in the history of the country. It may not be just Chicago. Maybe in every year, more black people kill each other than were lynched in the entire history of the country. Black Lives Matter is an awful group. And so Shaun King and everybody else out there trying to make the argument of Black Lives Matter, I think is making the country a worse place. And worst of all, I think they're making it more likely that black people are going to die. More black people are dead in Baltimore, Chicago, all these inner cities as a result of Black Lives Matter than if they had never begun any protest. And I have always thought it was absurd. I am so pro-police in all respects. This entire argument that the police are out to get black people, I think is crazy. And I think that it's a cancer on our society that hardly anybody has been willing to attack it. So that's what I think. Secondly, CNN is in crisis. CNN is in absolute crisis right now. I don't know if you guys are paying attention to these O'Keefe videos that are going out, but CNN is fine if you recognize that it's strictly entertainment. All right? The news has become entertainment. That's fine. And I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with that. I think the problem is when the news tries to pretend that it's something other than entertainment, and when the newscasters who are clearly either liberal or conservative are trying to pretend that they're middle of the road. This is the same issue that I have with ESPN. MS ESPN has gone very liberal. There's not a single person who's employed by ESPN that has criticized Colin Kaepernick for his protest. Not one. Think about how crazy that is. And they employ like 1,000 people who come on air at some point on ESPN. Not one person has criticized Colin Kaepernick. Meanwhile, over half of the country disagrees with Colin Kaepernick's protest. That disconnect between how people actually think and what people say on ESPN is why shows like Outkick have such massive audiences now. Because we're coming on and telling you that it's okay to think Colin Kaepernick is an idiot. That you're not racist or sexist or homophobic if you don't think that Caitlyn Jenner is a hero. That you don't really care who Michael Sam has sex with, and that doesn't make you a bad person. And meanwhile, ESPN is hammering you all the time with the fact that you are an awful person for those thoughts. And so with CNN right now, I think their biggest flaw is they've gone all in on anti-Trump. And the challenge when you go all in anti-Trump is your preconceived notions make you believe that things that are anti-Trump are automatically true. And you don't do the due diligence that you would ordinarily do if you were doing middle-of-the-road journalism. First of all, I don't believe very much that middle-of-the-road journalism exists. And let me explain why. Because the decision about what stories to cover in the modern era is where bias most often reveals itself. Let me explain. Let me explain how this happens. Every morning, when I decide what stories I'm going to cover on my 3-hour radio show, I decide every night before I go to bed, at like 10:30 or 11 o'clock, I jot down 3 or 4 things beside my bed, all right? These are the things that I think are going to be the number one story on my radio show tomorrow. And I jot them down. And then I wake up the next morning, and I go in, and I make sure that there haven't been major breaking stories overnight. And then I call my producer, Jason Martin, and I say, hey, I think that these 3 or 4 things are the big things that I want to hit today. That's all I come in with, 3 or 4 things. I don't come in with like a list of 12 topics. I'm not trying to do that. And I haven't been influenced, I don't believe, by anything that's happened on television, by anything other than my opinion about what I think big stories are, okay? And I try in sports to make sure that those stories are not biased, right? That I'm trying to be completely down the middle of the road. I got ripped because people said, I can't believe Clay Travis is asking why there is no evidence that LeBron James was the victim of a racist assault. A lot of you guys may have seen my Twitter feeds after I talked about it. Yesterday was the 1-month anniversary of LeBron James claiming that he was a victim of a racist graffiti attack. Do you know how much public evidence there is that that actually occurred 1 month later? Zero. Zero evidence that that actually took place. The media spent all the time covering it, all the time lamenting, talking about how brave LeBron James was, how amazing it was, how awful racism was, how unbelievable it was that something like this could happen, comparing LeBron James to a modern-day Muhammad Ali, all this coverage. Not one person on FS1 other than me and Jason Whitlock, not one person in media even questioned whether it might have happened. Not a single person on all of ESPN, on their 1,000 people, said, wait a minute, maybe we should look for evidence. Now, this is just me being a lawyer, right? If there's an allegation that a crime happened, my first thought is, let's find out what actually happened. First thought is, let's determine what actually happened. Let's go look. Okay, is there any picture of any racism? No. Is there any eyewitness that's independent of LeBron James's posse that was a witness of this? No. Did the police arrive and see any evidence that this happened? No, it was already painted over. Were there surveillance videos that could show you who did it? No. There is literally not one scintilla of evidence that any of this ever happened. We don't know anything about it. You can go Google it and read about it on Outkick. It's been a month. People said, oh my God, it's so racist of Clay Travis to ask whether a crime happened here or not. Now, circle back around. What's the first thing that Black Lives Matter does every time there's a police shooting? They say, wait a minute, was there actually a crime here or not? Was the person who shot justified to be shot or not? First thing Black Lives Matter does. First thing Black Lives Matter does is go look at all the evidence and try to make a case that the police officer was trying to murder a black person. They want evidence that somebody had done something wrong. They say, was there footage of this? Do we have surveillance videos? Is there anything out there that can show us the evidence to support that this was a justified police shooting? Literally, the first thing they do is demand evidence that a police shooting was justified. Yet when I ask the same kind of questions about LeBron James, all I'm asking is, did this actually happen? People are like, oh, that's Clay Travis is racist. That's a racist thing to ask. It's racist to ask whether a crime actually happened. That's how much of an upside-down universe we live in now. That people are like, oh, you know Clay Travis, you can't trust him. He's really controversial. When somebody alleges that a crime happened, you know what he asks for? Evidence that the crime happened. Think about how crazy that is. Think about how crazy. You can go search my mentions right now, LeBron James, Clay Travis, graffiti, racist, and you will see me called racist all over the internet. All because I said, wait a minute. Is there any actual evidence that this has happened? No, there's not any. Well, it's racist of you to ask whether or not this racist graffiti incident happened. So now LeBron James can just claim anything happened to him? LeBron James would be like, you know what happened to me the other day? I was on the subway, I got raped. They're like, oh my God, this rape crisis is out of control. LeBron James got raped on the subway. Is there any surveillance video? No. When the police arrived, was there any evidence? You know who did it? I don't know. I just got raped. Everybody be like, my God, the rape crisis is out of control. LeBron James so brave to come out and admit that he publicly got raped. And everybody'd be like, wait a minute, there's no evidence of it? That's like, think about how crazy that would be in any other situation. Any other situation, LeBron James comes out and claims he's a victim of a crime. There's no public evidence of it. And everybody's just like so brave of him. It was like, what if he came out and he said, you know what? One of my kids just got murdered. Oh my God. And you're going to play in the game? Yeah, I'm going to play in the game. But, I mean, like, where's the evidence that your kid got murdered? It's racist for you to ask whether or not there's evidence that my kid got murdered. Really? You just alleged that a crime happened. The very first thing when I hear that a crime happened is, Tell me some data to support the fact that the crime happened. 1 month after all this media coverage, after everybody went out and said, oh my God, it's so brave of LeBron James, it's unbelievable he'd have to put up with this, there's zero evidence that it happened. Not one scintilla of evidence that there was any racist act that happened associated with LeBron James. And that is an example of, when I say the media bias, I don't believe the media bias is in terms of trying to intentionally tell lies. I think media bias comes in when people make decisions, what they think the story is, and then go out and find evidence of the stories. Like, I've always talked about this. It would be one thing, like it used to be that the media used anecdotes to tell larger stories, right? So if, for instance, your belief was that people got killed by lightning thousands of times a day, right? You could go find one lightning victim and tell their story, and that would be evidence of everything else that's ever happened, right? All the other people who are dying of lightning. Instead, the way the media picks stories is things happen very rarely, hardly ever at all. And then they go grab it and cover it aggressively, as if it were something that happened all the time. That's exactly what happens with the police shootings. Police shootings of unarmed people almost never happen. That's why I keep coming back with this stat. You're more likely to be killed by a bee, wasp, or a hornet than you are by a police officer in this country if you're unarmed. 5 times as likely to get killed by a train as you are a police officer if you're unarmed and leave your house today. But when you cover every victim as if it's part of a larger issue, people look at it and think, oh my God, this is happening thousands of times every day. I think this is what happened to Colin Kaepernick. He's on Twitter. If every single day people tweeted you, oh my God, the police shot another person, eventually you would think that it was unbelievable. Like if you guys started going to Colin Kaepernick and every time you see a lightning attack, you said, oh my God, lightning got another one. Every time you saw somebody get killed by a snake or a dog or killed by a train, if you tweeted to Colin Kaepernick, he's going to be like, oh my God, this is unbelievable. Do you know how many people dogs are killing every year? About the same number as police are killing unarmed people. You're 5 times as likely to get killed by a train today as you are a police officer if you're unarmed. No matter what your race is. Almost never happens. Nobody's out there scared of trains. But if the trains got covered, like if the train had a hood on it and was a KKK member and trains were killing people all the time and it was a KKK murder, people would be like, oh my God, you can't even leave the house today. Trains kill people, people don't even care. Lightning kills people, people don't care. 100%. Trains were racist to be the #1 story in America. Maybe trains are racist. Maybe I need to start that. Okay, here's another question. Another question, a lot of people have been asking me, FoxSports.com basically is shut down. FoxSports.com basically is shut down. They are ceasing to exist as a website, effectively. All FoxSports.com is going to do is take videos from things that happen on FS1 and put them on FoxSports.com. I think this is a bad strategy, but I understand why it's happening from a business perspective, which is why I asked and said my third question here is an interesting one. Is sports writing dead? And it's a question that I don't know an easy answer to, and I'm going to tell you right after this. Wanting to create a family tradition of vacationing in Orlando every year for very little money? Visit magicalrealty.com and find the vacation ownership that suits you best. Right now, you can own a Sheraton Vistana timeshare in Orlando for only $500 compared to the $18,000 the original owner paid. If owning isn't your thing, they specialize in rentals for Aruba, Orlando, and Hawaii. Contact Magical Realty to help you save big on your future vacations. Email them at info@magicalrealty.com. That's info@magicalrealty.com, boys and girls. So FoxSports.com is making a decision that paying for written content doesn't make sense. And I'm going to write about this, a big article about it. It's something that I've seen coming for a while. Written content doesn't pay for itself. People say all the time, how come you don't hire more writers? People beg me all the time, can I come write for you? Can I come write articles? I'd love to write articles at Outkick. And the answer is writing doesn't pay for itself. Writing does not pay for itself unless you have big audiences like I do. Otherwise, it's just me giving money away. And so the reason why I've never hired a bunch of writers at Outkick is the only reason to hire a bunch of people, frankly, is if you're trying to sell to a bigger company. Like right now, I've said this before, Barstool's got like 60 employees or whatever the heck it is. 4 of them make money. The other 56 are about selling that company to somebody else, like passing the bag. And so I'm pocketing a lot of money because I'm grinding away, and busting my ass day after day after day, and I've been doing it for 6 years. And initially when I started Outkick, I thought I would find a ton of people. I thought I would find a ton of people who want to come out and work like I do. But if you go look at articles on sites, by and large, almost everything that exists is aggregation. That is, there's very little original content now that's happening. It's almost all aggregation. It's almost all somebody taking a paragraph from another article, putting it up, and they got like basically cubicle monkeys out there writing 20 different articles a day, all making a one paragraph joke in front of something that's already been aggregated. And that's the truth. And there's very little value to it. It doesn't add very much at all. And actually the aggregation never leads to payment for the original content creator, because hardly anybody clicks on the original article. People pull the paragraph they like the most out of a story, they link back to it, but nobody goes back on the links. Nobody clicks back on the link and reads the entire story. It almost never leads to more readership. And so as a result, you have created an industry that is predicated on page views, and page views are infinite existence. Every week there are more page views than there were the ones before. And I've said this before, I think we've reached peak page views. And as a result, individual writers who are pretty good and have big audiences are unemployed. Right now, Bruce Feldman and Stuart Mandel are unemployed. Two of the biggest audiences anywhere for Fox Sports, unemployed. Mark Stein, who breaks news like crazy for ESPN.com, just got fired. Andy Katz, who breaks basically every college basketball story, just got fired. You've got Brett McMurphy, who breaks so many stories in college sports, fired. It's because there's no value associated with news. Because the moment that you break a news story, it's immediately commodified and every other website grabs it. And in an age when everybody's writing, it's almost impossible to go out and grab new original content and have it pay off. And so I am totally fascinated by the industry that we have created, where there is almost no value associated with the written word. I now write because it's basically an advertisement for my Periscope, my Facebook, and my daily radio show. Writing is what I think I do best. It's certainly what I've been doing for years, and it basically is an advertisement. Like I sell all my ads across all space, and so this is an opportunity to do live reads and live ads, which I'm then able to put back up as part of my overall story. And this is, I think, a bad sign. And I've seen it get worse and worse and worse. And I don't know what the final result is, but basically we've created a situation where the value of written word has become zero. And I think a big part of it is that advertisers, by and large, are spending their money poorly. And what I mean by it is this. I only sell advertisements if people are going to come to me and they want me directly associated with their product. So if you want me directly associated with your product, you can write me, claytravis@gmail.com. I'll see if it makes sense. I'll see if it makes sense for us to be doing ads for you. I'm not going to do it for everybody. And as a result, that is actually a successful strategy. Like you guys tweet me all the time. Oh, thanks to SeatGeek. Thanks to 38 Cottages. Thanks to Oddshark for everything. Like they get big bang for their buck because you're hearing me endorse a product in my own voice. But instead of actually going out and valuing individual content differently and making it an exclusive offering, they buy everything. This was my big thing when I left FoxSports.com. You guys remember this a few months ago. I knew that they were going to start this video decision. And I came on and I said, I'm going to take all my ad controls and everything else. And I said, this is not going to make sense for what I do. And I've been really successful selling my own ads. I've been doing it for years now. But the reason is because I'm making me exclusive. I'm not going to allow you to go to Google AdWords and just randomly have your ad end up on Outkick. You have to pay me directly in order for me to endorse your product. And if I were advertising for companies, that's what I would do. I would go out and sign individual writers who are good, that I know have substantial audiences and do good original work. And I would say, I want my brand associated with you, as opposed to some podunk aggregator that nobody knows. And social media actually is making this worse to some extent because Facebook is just, nobody knows what articles they're reading from Facebook. By and large, people end up on your website from Facebook because that's just the distribution stream. They have no idea who's writing. So people go around and if they write and FoxSports.com shares their article, they like, oh, I got 10 million reads on this story. No, you didn't. FoxSports.com's distribution arm on Facebook got 10 million reads. You actually created nothing of value because nobody knows that you wrote it. I noticed years ago that the only value I created was if people came to my site and read my articles and said, oh, that's a Clay Travis article. Otherwise, you're just commodified like everybody else, and there's no value associated with it. As people say, like, why do you write the anonymous mailbag every Tuesday? Because tens of thousands of people come read the anonymous mailbag every Tuesday, share it with their friends, come back, are excited about it. They know that it's me. They know it's Outkick. It's something original that we do. Trying to be, what I say, SOFA, smart, original, funny, and authentic. And ad dollars are right now so programmatic that nobody even knows what they're buying. And this is a big deal, right? This is a big story, and it's been a huge discussion point. If you're an ad buyer, like they had people buying ads for ISIS videos on YouTube. And they would get a report, and they'd be like, well, guess what? 5 million people watched our ad yesterday on YouTube. Yeah, congratulations. A lot of them were ISIS fighters in fucking Ramallah, Iraq. I'm sure they are really going to spend a lot of money at Marriott hotels. Right? Like, oh, I'm sure they're going to be opening up bank accounts at Chase. Really smart. Like, they look at the numbers, not the quality of the impression. Right? It's a real mixed up ad market that we're in right now where quality matters nothing at all. It's all about quantity. And I've been talking about this for a long time. If you think about it, the way that television ads are bought is the exact opposite. Mad Men sells for an ad premium because Jaguar is aware that the people who watch Mad Men are the people who are likely to be able to afford to buy a Jaguar. It wouldn't make sense for Jaguar to go advertise on, I don't know, what's the lowest end show you can think of? What's the lowest end, dumbest show that has no audience that you can think of? Whatever that is. Like, you get college degree predictions. Like, I probably don't watch that show, right? You get college degrees, graduate, like Jerry Springer. How many people who watched Jerry Springer back in the day could afford a Jaguar? Not very many, right? Not very many people could afford a Jaguar. And so you look at the overall demographics of who's watching your show, and if you have a quality show, even though only 1 million people might watch Mad Men, 700,000 of them might be able to afford to buy a Jaguar. Like this show. We've got a really high-end and youthful audience, though. People are always like, oh, okay, that's a stupid audience. Like, when I meet our readers and our viewers, almost all college graduates, young, affluent, money to spend. Like, I don't need to worry about trying to get 1 million people if 900,000 of them have absolutely no money. When I do private jet advertising and we blow up the website because people want to go buy seats on a private jet, right? Like, we're fairly high end. And so anyway, my thought process on this is that the internet has led people to believe that all page views are created equal. And so when SI puts out the page view of the swimsuit issue, and it represents like 50% of the overall page views that SI gets, that's great. But do you really think the people who are coming and watching Sports Illustrated swimsuit videos are by and large going to be spending a lot of money? Like, if I had a choice, I would rather buy Peter King's column on Monday Morning Quarterback and have Peter King saying, hey, I'm staying at X hotel chain and I'm eating at X restaurant, and individually sponsor and brand my content with him, than I would put up freaking banner ads. And so my idea, which I'm going to write about and I continue to write about, is I want the brands to come to me and I will directly connect them to the larger universe. The reason why writing on the internet is a broken business model is because the same number of people who read, like, let's say, my analysis of whether gambling is going to change the way that sports is going to exist is different than the number of people who are going to click on an article about Chris Paul signing with the Houston Rockets. But when you click on an article about Chris Paul signing with the Houston Rockets, you probably, on Facebook especially, and certainly on Twitter to a certain extent, won't even know who is writing the article. And so as a result, it's important to have a brand connection. All right, Fox, where are you? We're getting ready to head to Europe, and my 9-year-old, and remember, he can read, and he's a smarty, he wants to say hi to everybody. That's my opinion on the state of modern-day sports writing on the internet. All right, Fox man, are you excited to go to Europe? Questions for Fox. No, Lincoln is the Bama fan. Hello, everybody. Are you excited to go to Europe?
Yes.
All right, questions. What do you think about the situation in Russia right now? What country are you most interested in other than America right now? Don't read the comments. You're going to get shy now. What are you most interested about China for?
They have a lot of different things about Chinese culture, and they're sort of related. It's amazing to think that all those European powers couldn't easily colonize the lower technologically advanced China.
All right, so we're going to D-Day. Are you excited to go to the beaches in Normandy? What do you know about World War II?
Well, what do you want to know about?
Well, tell us about World War II. Like, what about Churchill? What do you think about Churchill's performance in World War II?
Churchill was a very good speaker, probably the best of his time, and without him, we probably would have never won World War II, because Britain probably, if it still had that old prime minister, would have probably collapsed. Wouldn't have done nearly as well in the Blitz.
What about Churchill's performance during the Blitz impresses you? And don't read the comments, just talk. Yeah, what about Churchill's performance? Don't read the comments.
I think I already explained that.
Oh, okay, so you were impressed by him. What about D-Day? What are you excited about seeing D-Day?
I'm excited about seeing D-Day because I was thinking it would be neat to see the different setup parts of the German defenses, if there are any left, or how hard it would have been for Allied soldiers to march in.
So what do you think about the plans of D-Day? Who was the commanders? Like, what do you think about the decision?
I think the decision to go on June 6th was really brilliant. Now, most people may not agree with me at first sight, but if you think about it, the Germans thought, really, no way they're going to invade at this stormy weather. So they were not prepared. So when the Allies invaded in the stormy weather, they lost their air power, yes, but they got in completely unexpected.
That's exactly right. All right, so what are you most excited to see in Europe? Churchill's bunker? What do you...
I'm excited to go to Churchill's bunker and D-Day, Normandy. I can't really decide.
Between those two?
Yes.
Are you going to be good on our trip?
I hope so.
Are you going to whine?
Maybe.
All right. Go give your brothers a hug, all right? Be good. Love you. All right, Fox says bye. I appreciate all of you. I'll do the show tomorrow, 6 to 9 a.m. Eastern. I'm going to write maybe one more article, and then we are off to Europe. Travis family, hey, look, kids, it's Big Ben, all going to Europe. We're going to be all over London and Paris for the next 2 weeks, starting tomorrow afternoon. Love all of you guys. Thank you for watching the show. Share it if you enjoyed it. I'm going to write about the future of sports writing. I appreciate all of you. Show will be live tomorrow, 6 to 9 a.m. Eastern on Outkick the Coverage. Fox Sports Radio, 250 AM FM channel, Sirius XM 83. Remember, don't be a pussy, hashtag DBAP. I am Clay Travis, and this has been Outkick the Coverage.